Begat here, and today we're going to bring you another reloading video. And in this video we are going to be reloading 45 Colt. I will be showing you everything that you will need to know to reload 45 Colt or 45 Long Colt that's been shot. And we will go ahead, we'll clean the brass and we'll resize it and we'll show you every single step. And the gun we're reloading for a specific gun. This is a brand new gun of mine, and this is the new Cimarron, the man with no name, Colt single action army clone made by Birdie, sold by Cimarron out of Texas. And this is chambered in the big old 45 Colt. That is a big barrel hole right there. And the review on this will come, but I haven't had the greatest weather around here to do gun reviews with, but that's why we're making a good reloading video. So the first step is you need brass. You're either going to have old brass that you've shot once or shot multiple times, or you're going to have brand new brass. So we're going to load today actually with brand new brass, but you know, we'll show you every step. So this is a tumbler right here in front of me, and the tumbler basically you turn it on and it just shakes. It will just shakes, and there's other kinds. There's ultrasonic ones and different ways you can clean brass, but this is pretty very tried and true. And you can see down there on the floor I have my media right there, and that is almond, and next to it that is corn cob for a little extra polishing. So basically all you do is you're going to throw your brass in the tumbler, throw some media in there, and at least let it tumble for an hour. And you kind of want to watch it all circulate around in there. And then put your top on, seal it up so you don't get dust everywhere. And then go ahead and tumble. I recommend for about 2 hours of tumbling. And it's kind of loud, so you want to make sure you leave your garage, your reloading setup. And then after you finish it, go ahead and separate the media from the brass, and then you have your tumbled brass. The other thing I recommend too that'll save a little bit of time is I usually tumble once I've shot the brass. I don't resize it and decap it. That way the old primer stays in it and the little pieces of media don't get stuck in the primer pocket. It's just, I think it's a little easier. Next thing I wanted to show is I have my reloading manual out, and I'm a big fan of the manuals. It saves a lot of time. It's a quick reference guide, and if your power goes out or the internet goes out, you've always got, you know, a book here. And just to show you right there, we're loading 45 Colt right there, and it's got all your specifications, all sorts of different powders you can use, so on and so forth. And you can just see the powder we're going to use today is not in this book, but there's plenty of other powders that are in this book. And the other thing I do besides having my reloading manual out, and you can see I have a second one here, the third Sierra one I've lost, is I have some brass out here. I also have a book out where I take notes. And these notes are, well, they see all the loads that I've done recently. You know, we have some 10 millimeters, some 38, 357 mag, and the newest one is some 45 Colt down here. And then I write down what I've loaded, the powder that's in it, what kind of a charge it is, the date of it, so then I have some idea of what I'm doing here, because I'll definitely forget over time. Alright, so let's say we've got our clean brass, we've separated the brass from the media, and now we're going to set up our first step right here, and we're going to go ahead and we'll just do just a few pieces of brass, and then we're going to switch over to brand new brass. But this, you will get the complete process. So first thing we're going to do with our single stage press is we want to have our shell holder. And this is a, let's see, RCBS number 20, and that is for 45 Colt, and it will definitely fit other cartridges. Definitely it'll fit a 460 Smith & Wesson, Magnum, and then it will fit a 454 Casull, and probably 45 Schofield. And I'm sure there's others too. So we'll go ahead, we'll put the shell holder in there. We'll put our first piece, and you can see this is, you know, once fired Starline brass. We'll go ahead and we'll insert that. We're going to put the ram all the way up to the top. And the first die we're going to use, oh, wrong die, good thing I checked, is the resizing and decapping die. So you can see this die right there has a pin, and that pin will push out the old spent primer, and it will resize the brass to the correct factory SAMI specifications. And so we will go ahead and we'll put it all the way down. Actually, the first thing to do for the resizing die, put your ram all the way up, because the brass definitely will take tension to fit in there. And we're going to lower the die all the way to the shell holder on the top there. And you can see it's stopped right there. And don't over cam it. I'm not a fan of that. Some guys will over cam it. There's no reason to put that kind of stress on equipment. Brass is very soft and malleable. No reason to do that. So next thing you know, we got our primer catcher right there, and this is for our RCBS rock chucker single stage press. Put our brass in there. It's not adjusted correctly. So since our primer hung up, we're going to lower down the decapper just a little bit more. You can see the primer started coming out, but it's not out all the way. So we'll go ahead. Yep, I heard that was the correct sound. And you can see that primer has been ejected, and that is a resized piece of brass. So there's one. Yeah, these definitely take a little bit of force. These are big. 45 Colt's a big cartridge. Don't let anybody kid you. But that's it. They look good. There's a nickel-plated one. Yep, looks good to me. You can hear the little primers dropping out of them. Yep, perfect. But you can see this is pretty simple and straightforward. So usually on this press I load in batches of 100, and that's what we're going to stick to tonight, or something close to that. I just did a few test rounds when the sun was still up, and now it's dark outside. So that's basically your step on how to resize and deprime old brass. So then we'll go ahead and we're finished with this one. And we'll remove it. And then our next die, for our next step, we are going to expand the case mouth, and we're going to prime the brass. And this is our die for that. And this die serves two functions. This die will go ahead and expand the brass, and then it will go ahead and it will seat the bullet once we're ready for that. So you expand the brass to make it ready for accepting a projectile. So we'll go ahead and we'll just lightly screw that in there. And as you remember, this is our brand new brass, and I got plenty of brass. I ordered 500 nickel-plated brass, and this is all Starline. Actually, I got a good deal on this from Midway about a week before the election, which I was kind of dumbfounded by. But I'll take it, because even ammo like 45 Colt in this environment that we're living in now, with the COVID and the election, stuff has gotten really expensive, and 45 Colt is selling for more than $1 a round. So one of the reasons I like, just to give you a quick view of this, you can see how much 45 Colt brass I have. There's 500 rounds, nickel plated, the good stuff, and then I got an extra 100 rounds of just regular brass. So now we're on to primer. So our next step, we're gonna prime the brass, and then we are going to flare the case mouth to accept the projectile. So what we're going to use today, we're going to use Winchester large pistol for standard or Magnum loads, and all 45 Colt is a large pistol primer. And I've used these a lot with 44 Special and 44 Magnum, and they work great. So one of the reasons I like to do everything in batches of 100 for reloading is because a lot of your brass comes in packages of 100. Also primers come in packages of 100. That will be 100 primers right there. So I'll take my little primer tray, and this thing works very nicely. I'll open up my primers and see them all here. And there I have my 100 primers, and that will make them easy for me to grab to go ahead and reload with them. And then I will keep these out just so I can remember this empty box. I won't throw this away till the primers are used up, so I can remember exactly what I have out. So if I can't finish this tonight, if I get called in for dinner, then I know, I can come back tomorrow morning and I remember what I've got going on here. So the next thing we have are our projectiles, because we've got to get our projectiles out and cooking for this next step. So I'm a big fan of Hunter Supply for lead bullets. I load these, let me see, look, I load these in 38 special 158 grain and 44 special 200 grain. And these are great. They come in many different, but they're very consistent. They've always shot well for me and they're very affordable. So there's 250 in this box, 45 caliber, 250 grain projectiles. Let's see, FP is probably flat point, and that's a diameter of 0.452. They're jacketed, I'd probably go down to 0.451, but this for lead projectiles a little mushier than full metal jacket, so that'll work just fine. So let's take a look at some of these. And just since we're handling lead, don't forget to wash our hands after we're done shooting these. But you can see you got our crimp groove right there, and then you got our wax right there, bullet lubrication, and that's it right there. So let's take a look at a case and see if a projectile fits in it. Actually, it kind of does, which is kind of, well, it's a little tapered at the bottom. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to flare them anyway, because we don't want to damage the projectiles too much when we load them. So we got our projectiles out. All right, so we've got a piece of brass right there. We're going to go ahead, we're going to insert it in the press. We're going to go up with the press into the expander die and the bullet seating die, and we're going to screw it down until we get some light tension on there. There we go, all of a sudden it stops. So we'll go ahead and we're going to pull out the brass just to see what it looks like here, see if it'll accept a bullet. Actually, it is already, wow. Just by hand tightening it, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, that's accepting a bullet. So we'll go ahead and we'll check a couple of these. Yeah, there's not a lot on there. Yeah, I think that's... Wow, those are pushing right in there, yeah. So these happen to be a pretty good fit in here, so I don't think we're going to expand these cases. We're going to try a couple different projectiles, but these are actually fitting very well in here without case expansion. Yep, that was a little tighter. Now it's fitting in there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to leave them, yeah. Let's try one more. I always pick up a different projectile. And so since, yeah, that's fine. So that's 3 now. We'll try one more. Different projectile. Just in case there's variations. One thing I like to do with reloading is it's very important. Yeah, that one's fitting in there too. Yeah, these are all fitting in there. That's fine. So go ahead and check everything. Don't assume that it's going to fit. Check everything 5 times or every 10 to 20 rounds you do. Go ahead and check it. So we're going to use this as a bullet seating die. Instead, and that's the other function of this. So now we're going to set up our powder measure right there. So we are using IMR 4227, and the reason you're not going to probably find this for 45 Colt is it's really not made for it. It is made for, I believe, 22 Hornet and like 22 Swift or something in that nature for rifle rounds because it's slow burning powder. But it will also work well for 45 Colt, and if you look, just do Google searches, you will see excellent accuracy results. So today's load, I just tested some with 18 grains of powder, and they shot fine, maybe a little soft. So I'm going to bump them up to 18.5 grains of powder. You can see our powder measure right there. It's pretty simple. You're just going to open it up, dump a little powder in there, and you're good. And the other thing I do is I will leave the powder out on the bench, because you do not want to forget what powder you have in your powder measure, because it's very dangerous to mix up powders. You would not want to put a fast burning pistol powder into like a 308 case. That would probably not end too well. But this is a pretty good recipe right here, and it's also difficult to get the powders that I want right now. I really wanted to load up some 45 Colt with Unique, but I could not get Unique. So you can see we have our little scale right there, and we are pretty on it right now. We are at 18.5 grains of 4227, and you can see there's our powder right there, and we'll just go ahead and we'll double check it. I just won't measure powder once. I'll go ahead. I'll do a second drop, and we'll weigh that and see if, yeah, that's gonna be fine. That's a little heavy, just a pinch. Yeah, it's all right though, because these are still under max. Some guys will go up to 20 grains with this. 19's common, and we're only at 18.5, so I'm not super concerned about this. That one's a little light. We'll go ahead. See the variance here. This is why you double check things. And we will go ahead and drop a third one to double check. That one's way light. What the hell? So we're going to go ahead. We're going to add a little more to the powder measure. We're just about there. That's close enough. Yeah, we're there. So you can see that looks pretty good there, and we're going to go ahead and keep that. But just for good measure, we're going to go ahead, and as you can, if you can, don't see what I'm doing off camera, I dump it back in the top of the powder measure, and I'm dropping a fresh charge. That way, I'm also testing consistency. If my powder measure is dropping powder consistently, and it's really not actually. I don't know if this powder is not metering well. Very fine. But we're going to drop one more. But it's close enough, and since I'm right in the middle of these loads, I'm not really too concerned. If I was loading a max load, I would be more concerned. But since this is a mild load, yeah, it's definitely light. I'm going to just kind of leave it. We'll do one more. Yeah, it's fine. That's on it. Yep, that's good. We're going to leave it there. So this actually is the first video that's going to be a major difference from other reloading videos I've done, because once you reload one kind of straight wall cartridge, they're all very similar. You could actually load 44 mag or 357 mag or 38 special just watching this video. It's just the numbers are different, but you're still doing the same thing. So now I'm going to be priming, charging, and seating the projectile all in one step. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to take a piece of brass, put it in my press. I already have a primer right there. I'm going to put the brass up. My primer arm is up because I like to prime on the press. I'm going to go ahead You can see that is prime brass right there. Hopefully that's coming up good on the camera, but that's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And then you can just run your finger over it and make sure it's smooth. So then the second thing I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and charge it. And then I'm going to visually inspect it to make sure I see the powder. And then I see the powder in there. So we're good there. So I'll go ahead, I'll put it back on there. Now we're going to seat a projectile on it. You can already feel it getting a little bit of contact. You can see that projectile is out way too much. And the next thing is dial calipers. I know from the manual .45 Colt needs to be at 1.6 inches. So we're going to get the calipers out to about 2 inches. We're going to measure what we got right now. We're at, whoa, wow, we're close. That's 5, 6. Yeah, we're almost there on the first shot. Wow, a little aggressive there, but that's fine. I'm getting pretty good at this. So we'll go ahead, get the priming arm out of the way. As you can see, I just twisted the die down a little bit more, and you do this in steps because you don't want to overseat the bullet. And you can see we're about 18 thousandths of an inch away. So we'll go ahead, we're going to drop it just a little bit more. Yep, I felt that. You can feel it when it comes in contact with the bullet. Yep, still 10 thousandths of an inch away. Looks good. And the only thing I don't like about this, I'm not crazy about this, is this it's not crazy about these bullets. It's kind of chewing up the front of these bullets, but these are just target loads, so not super worried about it. But you can see there's our measurement right there. We're just shy of it by 2 1/1000ths. We're going to call that good. And so that's our first round right there, and all that we'll need to do is be crimped. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that there. So let's do another round. Got our piece of brass. We'll put it in the press. We're going to prime it. Check to make sure our primer is nice and flush. It is. We're going to go ahead, charge it, verify there's just a single charge in there. I don't think they'd take a double charge, but you definitely, because of the gun we're shooting them out of, we would not want to shoot a double charged 45 Colt out of this. Yeah, we're perfect. You can see that. Yeah, just 2 thousandths shy of 1.6 inches. So that's good. So let's go ahead. We'll do another one. First thing we're going to do, we're going to prime it. Verify that it's primed correctly. It's primed. Go ahead, charge it. Verify our charge is in there. Go ahead, we'll put a projectile on there. Seat the projectile. Yep, you can see we're very consistent here. So we got 3 around. So then the other thing I'll do is, now that I've dropped 3 charges out of the powder measure, I'll go ahead, I'll drop another one just to weigh it, just to make sure we're consistent here. Consistency is very important with reloading. So let's go ahead and prime this first. Put a primer in there. Our brass is in there. Verify we're primed. You can see I'm feeling it, that way I know it's flush. So we'll go ahead, we'll charge it now. Let's verify it, keep good habits. Now eventually I like to go into a rhythm. I'm slowing this down obviously for the camera and to make a good reloading video. I did not measure that one, but that's alright, we'll measure this one. So we'll go ahead, we'll put a piece of brass on there. We're going to go ahead, we're going to prime it. You can see we're nice and primed. Go ahead and we will charge it. We'll verify our charge. Seat our bullet. Check overall case length. That one's a little high. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to seat. That's a good thing. So we'll start again because that bullet was out a little bit. We forgot to lock this die in. So we'll take it out. We'll put it up. We know this one's a long. Squeeze it down just a pinch. Measure. Yep, we're still a little long. Bring it down a touch. That should be good. That's right where we were. So I'll go ahead, I'll hold the die, and I'll take the locking collar and I'll lock it down. So that one's good. We'll go ahead, and this is the one we didn't measure from before. We'll measure this one. That one's good. So let's go ahead, we'll do another one. So we'll go ahead, we'll prime it. This is actually a lot quicker with this brass and this lead set up this way because we're not expanding the case mount. That saves us a lot of time. So we're nice flush. Go ahead, we'll charge it, verify our powder charge. Put a round in place. Seat that bullet. Check our overall length. Yeah, now we're a little short. It could have just been an anomaly. It's weird. Some of these lead projectiles could be a little off, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to back the whole thing out. We'll start over again. A little short's okay, but usually I like to keep my rounds is usually to maximum length. That way it's closer to the rifling, and usually you get better accuracy that way. Yep, we're good there. Actually, that one's not quite flush. Put a little bit more. Charge it. Get a projectile. See the projectile. This one's big. Well, alright. So we got some anomalies in this lead right here. Actually, we pulled it out. So we'll go ahead and we will lower back down the scooch. Test it. There we go. We're right on again. So that round is just about complete. We're going to go ahead and lock this collar down. But you can see how important it is to check and verify all this stuff. Prime it. Verify the primer's flat. Charge it. Verify we got a charge. Seat the bullet. Let's check our overall length. Now we're short. We're going to go ahead and we're going to leave it. So we're short by 8/1000ths of an inch. I'm fine with that. So we'll go ahead and we will do a few more. We'll do 10 right here. So we'll go ahead, prime it, charge it, verify our powder charge, place the projectile, seat the projectile. Most important thing is we want consistency. So I'm looking for this one to be the same length. It's a little off. All that is these lead projectiles probably just banging it. You know, this one's off by 6/1000ths of an inch. That's fine. Go ahead and we'll put our piece of brass in there. Prime it. Primer's nice and smooth. Charge it. Verify the charge. Put a projectile. That one's good. That one's off by 7/1000ths of an inch. So you can see there's just a little variation with this soft lead, but that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. This isn't match grade rifle ammunition that we're shooting out to 1,000 yards. This is not, you know, full power, high pressure loads. This is not any of that stuff. This is just going to be nice plinking 45 Colt. And that's it. But we still want to take care that we don't make any mistakes and that we do a good job, and it's consistency. Loading ammunition, the most important part of reloading ammunition is consistency. So this will be our last step right here. So we've got, you know, we've got some of our 45 Colts, and these are all assembled. So we have, you know, we've cleaned the brass, we've resized it, we've deprimed it, and then since we're starting off with new brass now, we basically primed the brass, we charged it, and then we seated our bolts to the appropriate case length. And the last thing we need to do is crimp it, which means we're going to place a little crimp right there at the mouth of the case that'll crimp into the projectile to make sure that projectile doesn't move around. And it's very important for a revolver load. So we're just going to put kind of a mild crimp on these since they're nothing wild. So that is our crimping die right there, and you can see through it, but there's a little bit of a rim. Not sure if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that in there actually. But that will just place the crimp. So we'll go ahead and we're going to insert our die just a little bit. We're going to take a completed round, put it in our press, going to come up with it, extend it all the way. We're going to lower our crimp die until it gets tight and stops. There it goes. It just stopped. So just from practicing, just doing this a couple hours ago, I'm going to go about 40% of a turn just to get a little crimp, and then see what that crimp looks like here. It's a little bit. We're going to go a little bit more. And you can kind of feel it right there. You can kind of feel the pressure there. It slows down. That should probably be pretty good. I'm going to try one more, see what it looks like. Yeah, that's good. I can see, I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up on camera, but you can get a magnifying glass too, but yeah, we've definitely got a crimp there, which is good. I don't like the way this die is damaging these bullets. That's definitely going to screw up accuracy. I'm not crazy about that, but I can probably fix that. But we'll replace that. But for this, it's fine. These are just plinkers. So we'll go ahead, and those are crimp right now. Actually, we'll crimp this other one. We'll go ahead. Those are finished rounds, and we're going to go ahead and we will put our lock, holding the die, we will put our locking collar down, and we'll go ahead and we'll crimp these. And I'll go ahead and I'll visually inspect them. That one didn't feel like it got anything. So we're going to start again, actually, just to be careful, because you want to make sure we have some sort of crimp in there. These bullets are pretty loose. Get it as hard as I can. Pull it away, go down about 40%, lock the ring. Yeah, there you go, that felt good. Yeah, that's crimped. Yep, yeah, I can see that on there, perfect. So we'll go ahead, let's do another one. Yep, that felt perfect. Yeah, I can see where it's crimping it, yeah. Yeah, we're fine. Perfect, yeah, I can feel it. Yeah, I just see a little bit of crimp right there, a little bit of a taper crimp. Looks like a taper, yeah, it is a taper crimp. Usually most guys will roll crimp, and this seems like a taper to me, but it's alright. I don't really, since these are mild loads, I'm not, I've loaded some real hot 44 mags in the past, that we're going on a full turn with the crimping die. But that's because, we're loading up barn burners, but these are not barn burners and real wild rounds. So these are just mild 45 Colt. But you can see I'm just visually inspecting them. Yeah, they're all crimping fine. It goes pretty quickly. Actually, this 45 Colt is nice because without expanding the mouths of these, makes it a lot easier. So another very important thing, and it's very unique about 45 Colt, since the 45 Colt has been around since 1872, and the original gun that it was made for was a Colt Single Action Army, and this came out in 1873. The round was originally a black powder round, which is definitely very different than smokeless modern day propellants we have. And we are obviously not loading these with black powder. You can though. So because we're shooting a clone of a Single Action Army, we do not need anything radical. And I have plenty of other guns that I can go hunting with and, you know, shoot bullets, you know, faster than the speed of sound and all that, but we're not interested in that. So basically we're looking to push something, you know, right around 850 to 900 feet per second. They say 900 feet per second with a 250 grain bullet is about as fast as you want to go out of an original Colt or a Colt clone, which is what the Ubertis manufacture. But what a lot of people have done in recent years, not in recent years, but, you know, back probably since 44 Magnum and 357 were around, was they realized that 45 Colt is one great thing behind it, case capacity, and it pushes a very large bullet. Believe it or not, the case capacity of a 45 Colt is actually even a couple grains more than a 44 mag. So theoretically, you can push a 45 Colt bullet faster and with a little more power than a 44 mag. Probably not enough to make a difference, but you can. Which also makes this projectile could be very dangerous if you shot it out of something like this. The thing would just blow up in your hand. It would not be pretty. I do not recommend that. But Ruger makes revolvers, Smith & Wesson makes revolvers, any sort of a rifle like a modern Henry rifle that shoots 45 Colt will withstand something that you could load with, let's say, an H110 and really get some barn burners out of 45 Colt. And since all the cartridges are still the same, even in my reloading manual, they have two sections for 45 Colt. So you have the regular 45 Colt right there, and we can just, I'll go ahead and read you some velocity. So we're loading up some 250 grain bullets, and here we go, 250 grain lead bullets right there. Our maximum velocity with blue dot is 1,028 feet per second, and then it goes all the way down to 727 with IMR trail boss. And there's plenty in the 800s and 900s. We'll go to the next section of 45 Colt, and this is what it says: 45 Colt, Ruger and Thompson Contender only. You can see that up on the top, and it is the same round. So we'll go ahead and look at 250 grain bullets right here and see what kind of velocities those are getting. So 250 grain XTPs, the #1 powder, H110, one of my favorite Magnum powders. So it's going to take 26.5 grains of that, and it's going to push a bullet to 1,455 feet per second. So you can see we have a tremendous, and the pressure is going to be 29,800, so 30,000 PSI behind that. That's a lot. So you want to be very careful with 45 Colt. It's not, I love the relationship between 38 Special and 357 Magnum, also the relationship between 44 Special and 44 Magnum. I keep those rounds very different. I always load the Magnums real hot, and I load the Specials kind of right in the middle. But 45 Colt, just pay attention to what handgun you have and what you're loading for and what recipes you're looking for. Basically, they're saying 900 feet per second for a 250 grain bullet is max out of these older or clone revolvers. And then if you have a Ruger or Thompson Contender or something, or a Smith & Wesson, something modern, then you can go up and load them really hot, but be very wary of that, folks. So folks, that's it right there. So you can see we've done everything from, you know, if you have old brass, you go ahead, you clean it first, then you run it through the first die, you decap it, you resize it, and then you run it through your second step, which you're going to go ahead and you're going to prime it, and you're going to flare the case mouth open so it'll accept the projectile. But this brass is accepting these projectiles pretty good, and maybe 45 Colt is like that, so we're going to go ahead. We didn't need to flare the case mouth, and the bullets are seating just fine. So then our next step, we will go ahead and we will charge the brass, and then we will seat our projectile, and then we'll make sure we measure for the overall case length with the projectile seated in it. And then for our third and final step, we'll go ahead and we'll crimp it. And that just means crimping the brass right at the open mouth onto the projectile so the projectile doesn't move around in there. It can't jump the crimp under a heavy revolver recoil. And that's it. And that's all your steps to loading 45 Colt. And just remember, pay attention to your recipes with 45 Colt, because you do not want to put the wrong recipe for the wrong kind of revolver you're shooting out of, or wrong kind of rifle. And just remember that this is a 150-year-old round that used to be done with black powder. Now we're loading them hot with smokeless powder. I'm loading mild ones up just for plinking for fun. I have other guns that I'm hunting with, other guns for self-defense. This is just a for me, a fun gun and fun rounds. That's all these are for. But folks, thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for the review for the man with no name, the Cimarron 45 I've got. This is a great gun, and now we've got lots of ammo to shoot with it. And folks, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I'll get back to them as quick as I can. Also, hit that subscribe button, the notification button, so you know when I put up new videos. I appreciate you watching, folks. Thank you.